Okay, folks, so this week we've started talking a little bit about working with inequalities, right? Inequalities are your greater than symbols or your less than symbols. And so when we look at these problems, we talked about the fact that an inequality like this, this says that x is less than or equal to -2. So x can be any number less than or equal to -2. Well, since our number system goes on forever in both directions, that means there's an infinite number of solutions to this, because our numbers keep getting more and more negative going to the left and more positive going to the right, increasing going to the right, and they go on forever. So because of this, if I asked you, well, what numbers are less than or equal to -2, there's an infinite amount of them. You can't list them all because it's infinite. So therefore, what we do is we just draw a picture to show the numbers that are less than or equal to -2. We draw a little graph on the number line. So here what I want to do is I want to show all the numbers that are less than or equal to -2. So you start out by putting a dot on the boundary number there. All right, so on -2, I'm going to put a dot. Now, since it can be equal to -2, we talked about the other day, you're going to put a solid dot, because -2 would be a solution to this. So you put a solid dot on -2. And now you decide, where are the solutions? Are they to the left of that dot, or are they to the right of that dot? All right, since we're talking about where x is less than -2, the numbers are less to the left. So I'm going to draw an arrow going to the left. Okay? So this shows all the numbers that are less than or equal to -2. So you always put a dot right on the number, either open or closed, depending on if there's an equal to, and then you draw the arrow on one side or the other, depending on if it's less than or if it's greater than. Down here, we want to show all the numbers where x is greater than 3. So we go down to the number line, and notice I have my numbers here, and there's 3, so I'm going to put a dot over the 3, but this time I'm going to put an open dot, because it does not include 3. It cannot be equal to 3. So I put an open dot. And now where are the numbers greater than 3? To the right, right? The numbers get bigger than 3 over here. So I'm going to draw an arrow like that. So this is showing all the numbers that are bigger than 3. So if it is an equal to underneath, you're going to have a solid dot. If it does not, you're going to have an open dot. If it's less than, you're going to be going to the left, because the numbers get less than going to the left on the number line. If it's greater than, you're going to be going to the right, because the numbers get bigger going to the right. That's it. Okay? Let's try a couple more, and I'm going to show you one last thing. So why don't we graph those two. So why don't you draw out a number line and try to graph those two right there. My zero is a little crooked there. Okay? So pause the video, try to show those out on a number line, and then we'll come back and we'll go over it. Okay, so hopefully you took the time you need. So for this one, I know I'm going to need -4. And then going this way, I get less negative. And then going this way, I get more negative. Right? So x is greater than or equal to -4. So I'm going to put a dot on -4, and since there's an equal to there, it's going to be colored in. And where do the numbers get bigger? This way or this way? This way, right? The numbers always get bigger going to the right. You can follow where the arrow is pointing. That little guy's pointing that way. So x is greater than or equal to -4 is over here. These numbers are greater than -4. Now down here, x is less than 0. So for this, I have to make a number line with 0 on it. So the number is less than 0. And now my dot that I put on 0 is going to be open, because it doesn't have an equals to. It doesn't include 0. And now where are the numbers less than 0? Over here to the left, right? So I draw my arrow, boom, just like that. Okay? So remember, if it's a greater than, you're going to be shading to the right because the numbers get greater to the right. If it's a less than, you're going to be shading to the left because the numbers get smaller to the left. If it's equal to, then you're going to have a solid dot. If it's not, you're going to have an open dot. That's all you need to remember. Okay? Now, you may run into an inequality that looks a little different. You may run into one that looks like this sometime. And what does this mean? Right here. What this means is that x is between 1 and 5. Between, look at it, it is. It's in between 1 and 5. So when you graph on the number line, you're going to be graphing all the numbers between 1 and 5. So I put a dot over here on 1 that is colored in because of the equals. I put a dot over here on 5 that is colored in because of the equals. And then where are the numbers in between 1 and 5? Right here. So I'm going to be graphing in between them. So you may see an inequality like this, and I call this a between inequality because it means that the values are all in between those two numbers. Okay? Like let's say I had one like this. So what's that mean? That means that x is between -2 and 3. Between -2 and 3. So when I make the graph, I'm going to put a dot on -2, but this time it's open because there's no equal to. I'm going to put a dot on 3. This time, again, it's open because there's no equal to. And where are the numbers between -2 and 3? Right here. So if you see an inequality like that, like a double inequality like that, it just means graph the numbers in between those two numbers. Show the numbers that are in between those two numbers. So if we did one more like that, how about if we did one that was like, so this is saying graph the numbers, what numbers are between -3 and 1, right? So notice again, I did out my number line here. So we want the numbers between -3 and 1. So I put a dot on -3. It's a solid colored in dot because of that equals. I put a dot on 1. And I want the numbers in between. Boom. Okay? So, again, just like we talked about the other day, when it comes to inequalities and you're trying to show the solutions, there's always going to be an infinite number of solutions. So that's why we have to show it visually instead of listing them out. So this is pretty similar to what we did the other day. I just added on this in-between inequality, but it shouldn't be much different from what you saw in the video the other day. So watch this video, rewatch it if you need to, rewatch the video from earlier in the week, and then today's practice is just going to be a little bit more of this, graphing the solutions like this. Okay? All right, folks, have a good day.